the first hand we get is none other than pocket aces. Hopefully off to a good start on the session. There's 3 limps to me, and in the small blind, definitely want to be sizing up and putting in a raise. I think I actually went a little bit too small here, but nonetheless, I make it $45. The big blind gets out the way, and all of the limpers call. So we're going to be going 4 ways to a flop at a position which is never ideal with pocket aces. The flop is King 9-6 Rainbow. All things considered, a pretty good board. I think I can mix between betting or checking here, being out of position, and 3 other people in the pot. This time I check it and action checks around. So at this point, I'm pretty confident I have the best hand. The turn now is a 7. Definitely not my favorite card, so I decide to check it once again, and action actually checks all the way to the button, where he goes all in for around a pot-sized bet. Well, the way I played the hand thus far, I don't think I can ever be folding here, even though I definitely don't like the situation. I call, and the other players fold. We're off to see one more card, which is an 8, so another pretty miserable card, and yeah, well, it looks like I regret not betting the flop, as he has 6-7 for a turn 2 pair. In the first hand of the night, aces are officially cracked, but I guess at least the pot wasn't all that big. Nice hand. In this next hand, we see Under the Gun open it up to 20, 2 calls, and I'm in the cutoff with 8-10 of spades. Kind of dicey, but I like this hand, so I'm a call, and the other players fold. The flop gives us top 2 pair on an 8-10-5 2-hard board. Clearly a really good flop. Unfortunately, action does check to me, and on a board this dynamic, I don't think I have to bet too small here. I think I can actually bet pretty big. So I bet pot. I go ahead and bet $80. The initial raiser gets out of the way, one of the callers gets out of the way, and now, directly to my right, he does decide to put in the call. So we're off to see a turn, praying that it's clean. The 7 of diamonds does look pretty suspect initially, but when you think about it, I think this is actually a really good card for a few reasons. It'll probably give it a lot more equity to hands that are combo draws on the flop, such as like flush draws, straight draws, hands such as 9-10 suited, 6-7 suited. Ultimately, I just think this card will just give him a lot more outs, and I don't think he'll fold to another big bet. So I bet pot on the flop, so I'm going to bet pot once again. I bet $240, and he quickly folds.
Thank you.
This is probably the hand of the night right here. We look down at Queen 10 of clubs in the cutoff once again. Under the Gun opens up to 25. I decide to make the call, and the big blind decides to call as well. So 3 ways to a flop where we flop the world. It comes 9-8-6, 2 clubs. So we're sitting here with a flush draw and a double gut shot straight draw. Also, we have 2 overs, but those probably aren't as pretty. Under the Gun continues for 25 after it is checked to him, and I think this is where I messed up the hand. When he bets this small into multiple people, I think a raise here is probably in order. Even if he has a hand such as like aces or kings, this board is just very scary and dynamic, so we can apply a lot of pressure. So as you guys can probably guess though, I just make the call, which in hindsight isn't horrible, but I think I do like a raise here better, and the big blind does tag along as well. So we're off to see a turn, which is a king of spades. Yeah, it doesn't help us one bit. Checks to the initial aggressor once again, and he continues for 75. Okay, so to be honest with you guys, I'm not happy with how I played this hand here on out, but I am just going to tell you. So now, this king is obviously a much better card for the Under the Gun player, and on a board this dynamic, I probably would be raising sets, 2 pairs straights on the flop. So I think by me raising to 275 here now on the turn is a mistake. If I called on the flop, I think I should probably just continue to call here on the turn. But nonetheless, now I decide to put in more money on a card that is much better for him, which is a mistake in my opinion. I think I should just be calling here almost 100% of the time after just calling on the flop. The big blind folds, and Under the Gun hems and haws for a little bit, and all of his chips are going in the middle. Wow. Yeah, that sucks. I get a count, and it is a big bet. It is around $1,080. Obviously, it is definitely not ideal to put in a lot of money with a hand that is drawing, and right now I just have queen high. But I'm sitting here thinking that I can never be in that bad of shape, right? I think so. So we have to put in around $800 to win a pot that is currently like $1,500. So, I don't know. I'm filming a vlog, and we have a hand that has a crap ton of equity. I don't know. I just feel like folding here would be silly, even though, in hindsight, after I looked it up, this should be a fold, but I make the call. So we're praying to see an improvement on the river, which comes a black 2, but the wrong suit. And knowing his exact holding, I would have snap called a lot faster or just got the money in on the flop. He had 7-8 of clubs. Yeah, that's depressing. A pair of 8s is going to win this $2,300 pot. And what's funny too is on the time that we were all in, my queen was actually an out too, which I obviously did not suspect. But what are you going to do? He wins a big one. Nice hand. We have Jack 7 of spades in the big blind, 3 limps to me, and I check my action. We go ahead and flop a pair on a pretty dynamic board. It's king high, but we also have a jack. The action does check around. The turn now is a 7. Alright, that's pretty good. 2 pair. The small blind now leads out for 30, which is a pretty strong line. And now's the question whether I want to be raising or just calling. I just decide to call. Maybe a mistake. I should probably be putting in more money here. And we do see one other call by a player behind me. So now, we're off to see a river which comes in ace. Not my favorite card in the world, as we now lose to queen 10 and a lot of other 2 pairs that could be possible with this ace, such as ace jack, ace 8, ace 7. Yeah, just really not the best card. The small blind now checks. So this gives me a lot more hope. I don't think he ever has 9-10 here. Obviously not queen 10 or a 2 pair. So I'm going to bet for value. I bet $50. The player in early position does call, and the small blind folds. I table my hand, and we are good. He said he had king 10 of diamonds for a pretty sick flop, but luckily we get there on the turn. Probably missed out on a lot of value, but what are you going to do? It's a pretty scary board 4 ways with a measly 2 pair. In this next one, there's 2 limps to me. I'm in the hijack, and I look down at ace queen off. Pretty standard raise. I make it 35, and both of the limpers decide to call. The flop is king 10 for rainbow. When action checks to me, this is a board that I should be betting on a lot of the time, as it is generally much better for me, but I've played with these 2 players quite often, and they're not much of a folding type. So I just decided to check this one back and realize some equity. We're off to see a turn which is a deuce of spades, putting a backdoor flush draw on the board. We do have the ace of spades. So now, middle position goes ahead and bets $45 after it's checked to him. He is around $300 behind, so I definitely have room to make a move here on the river if the card is appropriate. So I decide to float one in position, and the other player does get out of the way. So we're off to see a river which comes a 9 of spades. So still sitting here with ace high, but this is a really, really good bluff card, especially with our exact holding. So we're sitting here with the ace of spades, so he can definitely not have the nut flush. And we also have a queen, so we block queen jack. So we have really good card removal in this exact holding, and especially when he bets 45 once again. When he bets this sizing twice, he never has a strong hand here. So I go with the plan. I decide to put him all in for 300. And after around 4 seconds, he calls. I say nice call, expecting to see a king or maybe 2 pair, but no, he shows ace 10 offsuit and completely wrecks my soul. Not gonna lie, this one did hurt. Really expected him to have a hand like that, and obviously I expected him to fold it, but yeah, not this time. Nice call, sir. Okay, in the very next shuffle, literally the very next hand, with a steamed image, we look down at 2 black kings. Wow, this is perfect timing. I open up the action 220. We see a call from my good friend in the cutoff, and the other players do get out of the way, so we're going heads up to a flop. A 10-8-4 flop with 2 hearts does look like a pretty good one. I probably would be checking this flop a lot of the time out of position, but I don't think that is appropriate this time, considering we got caught bluffing last hand, and I'm playing a pretty good steamed image, but obviously, all I'm thinking about is getting piles of chips in the middle. So, with that being said, I think a bet here is definitely in order. I throw out $25, and he makes the call. We're off to see a turn, which isn't my favorite one. It is a 6. So, no flush draw completed, but this card definitely isn't the best. Hands such as 7-9 got there, and it also is just all around a much better card for him than it is for me. With that being said though, I normally would be checking this card like 99% of the time, but once again, with the prior hand where I got caught bluffing, I think I can get paid off pretty light in this hand. So I decide to put in a bigger bet, which I think is a mistake. I bet pot. I bet throw out $100, not expecting any top pair, obviously any over pair, or maybe even a middle pair can call. Well, unfortunately, no calling is done. A raise happens. He throws out $290. Basically, a miserable spot. Obviously, very frustrated considering that we're getting raised on a board that is much better for him after a pot that I just got caught bluffing on. Yeah, not a good spot. We have a really good hand on a board that is much better for him, and he doesn't have that much money behind. He has around $300 behind. So if I call this and the river is clean, I'm just going to have to pay it off. But the thing about this is this player could easily be doing this with some sort of combo draw and just bluffs on a potentially scary river. And I don't know if I want to give him that option. I don't know. I think the last hand played a huge role into this one, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated. I think I'd go with the worst option out of the three, which is putting the rest of his chips in the middle, and he snap calls and turns over the nuts. This hand was played pretty badly. I'll be the first one to admit it, but to be results oriented, if I were to call the turn, yeah, I'm never folding on that river. At least it went to the nicest guy at Coconut Creek. Nice hand. In this next hand, I have the button straddle on. Middle position raises to 45, and I decide to make the call. The flop is 9-10-4 with 2 clubs. A pretty good board, even though there are 2 overcards out there. She continues with another bet, and I think it might be a little bit too premature to fold quite yet, so I make the call, and we're off to see another 9. This card does seem pretty good. It might incentivize some draws to slow down, but she continues to bet. She throws out a pretty big one. So I'm sitting here with 2 7s on a board that is pretty safe. I don't really expect her to have too many 9s here. Sure, she could have some 10s, such as like Jack 10, King 10, Queen 10, Ace 10, 2 10s. But I just don't think she's ever doing this sizing with those hands besides maybe 2 10s. She easily could have some combo draws, such as like Queen Jack of clubs, just Queen Jack, just 2 overs. So I don't know. Still not fully convinced I'm beat quite yet, and who knows, maybe if the river's suspicious, we can bluff at it. I make a pretty speculative call, and we're off to see the Ace of Spades on the river, so a pretty brutal card. Now, she decides to down bet to $100. I think I know what's going on here. I think she likely does have a pretty good hand, such as like a 10x hand, or maybe Jacks, Queens, Kings that is now scared of the ace, so she's doing a blocker bet. So, I think about getting frisky and putting in a raise, but she does say something that catches my attention. She says, "I promise you I am not bluffing." Well, I do believe her, and even if she does have a middling pair, my image at this table is pretty aggressive, so I don't think she's going to fold. So I just let it go, and she shows pocket queens. So maybe that ace on the river did save us a good amount of money. Nice hand. In this next hand, there's a button straddle. We're in the small blind, and we look down at King Jack of clubs. Pretty easy open. And the same player we got involved with last hand, she decides to make the call. So we're off to see a flop, which is pretty good. It comes ace high with 2 clubs. Not only is this a good board for our exact holding, as we have the nut flush draw, but it's a good one for our range. We could easily have ace king, ace queen, aces, where it's hard for her to have really strong aces considering she just flatted pre-flop. So I decided to put an AC bet, and she makes the call. Really don't expect her to fold middling pairs here, so I'm planning on applying a lot of pressure on the turn, which is a pretty irrelevant card. Now I decide to size up, expecting her to fold a lot of her middling pairs, and I would be doing this if I had a strong ace anyways. So now I decide to bet the size of the pot. Obviously, a fold here would be ideal, but she does decide to make the call once again. Now, I don't think she ever has a middling pair here. I think it's always an ace-x holding, and now it's a question whether I think she can fold that holding on the river if we do not improve. Well, we don't improve, per usual, on this session, and it's a card that I do not think she is going to be folding to if I put in another bet. So that being said, I wave the white flag. I check, she checks it back, and she shows ace-4 of hearts for top pair and the best hand. The session definitely did not go the best. We definitely didn't run the best, and I'll be the first one to admit that I definitely did not play the best. I do want to be transparent and show these sessions, even if they are pretty miserable, such as this one, and I just want to let you guys know that I am not perfect. I definitely make some mistakes along the way, and a lot of them. But besides the fact, I'm glad you guys tuned in for another video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the hands. What's up, guys? So we got smoked, absolutely smoked. We were in the game for 3,500. We were out for 700, so we lost a lot. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not too worked up about it. I think I could have played better, especially in the Queen 10 of clubs hand and the Pocket Kings hand, especially the Pocket Kings hand. You know, maybe I slightly overplayed, but in the moment, I don't know, I felt like I was still ahead of a lot of value hands and combo draws. So bad read is what it is, and yeah, we get punished. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. If you haven't already, it'd mean the world if you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. It would make me feel better in a time like this. No, but in all serious, guys, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later this week or next week. Peace.